I'm going to talk first about, is your Zoom up to date? This is really important right now because people, I've noticed, a lot of folks have been using this whole thing of pick your own breakout room. Well, that is only going to work if you're up to date in Zoom. So the first thing I want to show you, this is super important. The first thing I want to share with you is that if you don't have the Zoom client, you can't do this. Now you might be asking, you might be saying, what the heck is the Zoom client? I already see some people looking at me like, what are you talking about? The Zoom client is actually the application that you have on your laptop or on your whatever computer that you're working on. Okay, so this is the part, like I said, if you're working on a Chromebook and you're a paraprofessional, this part does not relate to you at all. You won't be able to get this particular thing. So let me share with you what that is. Okay, so I'm going to present and I'm going to present a different screen. So hang on, you're going to have to hang with me for a second. Okay. So what you're seeing right now is my entire screen.
Hey, Lori.
Correct? Thumbs up. Can you see my entire screen? So you're seeing you, or you may be seeing you may not be seeing you. Can you see the very, very bottom left of my screen where it says type here to search? Yes? Great. Okay, so this is where you're going to look for the client. If you have it, you're going to click in the type here to search, and you're going to type in Zoom. I didn't press enter, just so you know, I just typed in Zoom. And it says here, Zoom app. So check and see if you have that. If you don't have that, you can go ahead and download it from Zoom. Okay, but right now I'm just going to show you what you do to update your Zoom. So I'm going to click on open. Now, I don't know if you noticed, but down below, I have a little teeny picture of Zoom, little teeny icon, right? This is on my taskbar. If I right click on this, it's pinned already, but yours will probably say pin to taskbar. You want that. You want it to say pin to taskbar because that way you can open Zoom just by clicking on this little picture at the bottom. All right. So this is the client. Now, let me hold on a second. So you're going to sign into the client. I'm signed into the client. How do I know? My picture is in the upper right-hand corner. Remember that when you're signing into Zoom, you're using Google. Okay, so this is listing all of the meetings that I have. And I'll be honest with you, this is really, I don't use the desktop client very often, but I do use it to make sure that I'm up to date, which is very important. And that's why I'm going over this with you. So if I click here, and so I've clicked on my profile picture. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on check for updates. And it tells me I am up to date. So that's good. I'm up to date. If you're not up to date, it will tell you. And then what it's going to do is it's going to download the update and then ask you to restart. Don't do that now. Please don't do that now. If you're on your laptop and you're like, ooh, I'm not up to date, just hang on a second, because if you restart, you're going to leave this meeting and you might miss some stuff. So this is how you check whether or not you're up to date. So if you've been having any trouble with Zoom, this is what you check. Okay, so that's number one thing that I wanted to share with you about Zoom. I'm going to stop presenting, and thank you to my helpers who are helping by answering questions while I'm going through all of this. And if there are any, if you could just make notes of questions that you are unable to answer, then I'll go back and show. If it's something that needs to be demonstrated, please go back and, make a note of it and remind me at the end here. Okay. Oops. Going back here. Hang on a second. I have to go back and forth. I have to toggle. Okay. So there is in this, you can go ahead, this tells you exactly what I just did. I just wanted to demonstrate it for you. Okay, this is, and I'm going to be truthful again, this is really all I use the client for. Everything else I do using the other set of settings, and I'm going to show you that right now. So I'm not going to talk about this. Now, I do want to say really quickly. So there's something called Secure Classroom. This is great if all the meetings are with only people that are in-house. So that's great. You can set up Secure Classroom. It makes it very secure. It makes it so you can't get Zoom bombed. It makes it so that other random people cannot get into your Zoom. However, it makes it a little more difficult. It makes it actually impossible for those who are not within our organization to get in. So keep that in mind. There's a whole bunch of information here about Secure Classroom and how you turn it on. And I really do suggest that you turn it on for meetings that are only going to include people within our organization. So I have all this information, blah, blah, blah. There's a video that I'm not going to show. Now, this is important. I want to talk about settings. So there are basically two kinds of settings. There are the web settings that you do from the website, and I'm going to show you how to get in there. And then there are the in-meeting settings. So the web settings generally are going to be for setting up the settings for every single meeting, okay? It's like setting up your default settings, right? The in-meeting settings are when you're in an actual Zoom meeting, there are all kinds of other little settings that you can put in there. Things like you want to turn off the ding dong sound when every time someone enters, right? Things like turning off the waiting room, all of that, right? You can do that for different meetings. And again, this is where you want to think about your audience. So one, is the audience going to be all people who are from our organization? In that case, you probably want to turn on Secure Classroom. And then in that case, also, you can turn off the waiting room, which is great. So this is where you want to really think about who the audience is, right? And at what levels of security do I need? So again, the web settings, and I'm going to show you in just a second how to get in there. There's a ton of them, okay? But that's the way you kind of set your meeting default, so that when you set up a meeting, all of them are going to have these settings. But once you're in the meeting settings, you can hold on a second. You can, for in meeting settings, you can go ahead and change it for a specific meeting. Okay, so think about it as an umbrella versus a target. Okay, I'm actually going to go to where you can go to these settings. So I've opened up a new tab, and I'm going to go to wccusd.zoom.us. Yes, you can just go to zoom.us if you want. It doesn't really matter. I just go to wccusd.zoom.us because I like the pretty picture of Pinole Valley High School. Okay, so I'm going to click on sign in. I'm not going to click on join right now. I'm not going to click on host. I'm going to click on sign in. And I don't think I've ever been to either one of these. I just sign in. So I'm going to sign in. And you want to set, a lot of times you'll get something that says sign in, how, what's your username, what's your password. You're going to click on sign in with Google. Anytime with Zoom, you're signing in with Google. So just remember, Zoom means sign in with Google. All right. So the first thing that opens up is all the meetings that I have set up already. Okay, great. Along down the left side, these are all the different choices I have. And today I'm going to be talking about settings, and I'm going to be talking about reports, and I'm going to be talking about meetings. Right now, I'm going to talk about settings because settings are super important. This is how you set the stage. So I'm going to click on settings. Now this gets really kind of interesting because there are a lot of settings. So there's a list on the top that says meeting settings. That means I'm in meeting settings right now because it's blue. There are recording settings, and this is really good because you can turn on automatic recording. So if you're the person who something needs to be recorded and you always forget, then this is the thing that you set, right? Meeting recordings. Okay. And then telephone is when people call in. Now we're not having so much of that. So I hardly ever look at this. I don't really mess with it. I just leave it the way it is. I haven't had a problem. Okay, so I'm going to click on meeting. And under meeting, these are all the different kinds of settings that I can set up. Okay, so there are a few things I want to show you here. One of them is the waiting room. I have the waiting room turned off on mine because when I do really large trainings and people start coming in, I can't stop and let them in, right? They come in late. I can't stop and let them in. This is where the secure classroom comes in, because if it's secure, if it's a secure meeting, it's only people within WCC USD, then that means that I can turn off the waiting room and they can just come in, not a problem. Okay. But remember, again, secure means no one from outside of our district can come in. So they have to have that WCCUSD.net account or WCCschools.org account. Okay, so here we go. This is a lot. I'm going to try to make it a little bigger here. Oh, so much better. Okay, so, got to make it a little smaller. There we go. Move it over. So just so you know, all of these that are listed here, I can either click to skip through, but they're actually all in this list. So I'm just going to scroll over this way so you can see everything. So here are the little buttons. Just so you know, there are some settings that have been done by the district, and you'll see those. You'll see it when you can't change it. That's something that's been set by the district that you can't change. Okay, so I have this turned on. This is required so that all meetings are secured with one security option. That's always good. I want that. So that means that if I turn off secure classroom, it's going to turn on my waiting room. Fine. That's something I'm going to have to live with if I'm possibly letting in people who I don't know from outside the district. Okay, so a few other things. You do want to require a passcode when scheduling your new meetings. Yes, you want that. That's a good thing. Now, there is, if you go down a little bit further, you can embed the passcode in the invite link. So here we go. That's turned on. You want to make sure that that is turned on, because that means that when you get the link for your meeting, all you have to do is copy it, paste it into an email, paste it into a calendar invite, whatever you want to do, and it's all ready to go. You don't have to write down the password is blah, 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 because it's already embedded in that really long link. All right, so I'm going to scroll down a little more. So a lot of these I skip because they've already been set up by someone else. That's fine. Okay, so I have some things turned off. Now, scheduling meetings. I'm just gonna scroll through all this because we're gonna talk about scheduling meetings in just a moment. And then in meeting basics. So this is for when you're in the meeting, right? So there are things like allowing the meeting participants to send a message. Now, just so you know, these are things that you can change within the meeting as well. So if you turn, whatever you do here, that's something that you can actually change within the meeting. And I have all that information within the slide deck. Here's that sound notification when someone joins or leaves. So I don't know if you've ever run a Zoom meeting. If you have, you hear the ding dong when people come in, and there's another sound that it makes when they leave. And you can either turn that sound on for everyone. I don't think you want to do it. It's super distracting. Or you can just turn it on for host and co-hosts only. Again, this is something that you can turn it on here in the settings for all your meetings, but once you're in that meeting, you can turn it off. Okay, so just wanted to share that. Let's see. There are a lot of these things, like I said, there are a lot of things. So co-hosts, I have that turned on because I want to be able to add co-hosts. Remember that a co-host has the same controls that you have as the host. I have meeting polls turned on. If that's something you're interested in, me showing you how to do meeting polls, you can go ahead and put that in the chat and we'll cover that later. Always show the meeting control toolbar. Yes, I do want that. That's the bar that has like whether or not you're muted and like polls and breakout rooms and all these other things. I do like to have that on in all my meetings. Did you know that you can move it around? If you click on it, you can drag it around. So it doesn't always have to be in your way. So let's see, show Zoom windows during screen share. Yes, I want to be able to see Zoom during screen share. I want to suggest that if you're doing a lot of presenting when you're using Zoom, then having 2 screens will really save your life. It just makes it so much easier. For screen sharing, I have it turned on so that only the host can share. You can change that in the meeting. Okay, just keep that in mind. So several of these things you can change. I'm not going to talk about annotation or whiteboard. And I think I'm actually going to move on. Oh, in meeting advanced, what's under that is breakout rooms. So if you are setting up meetings for someone else, right? If you're an office manager and you're setting up Zoom trainings or meetings for other people, you need to ask them these questions, right? Do you want to be able to do breakout rooms? I would say just turn this on. And then hopefully by now they know how to do breakout rooms, right? But I would say turn that on. Okay, virtual background, blah, 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 blah. That is all I'm going to show you on those settings right now because I want to talk about setting up meetings. When you set it, if you're an office manager and you're setting up, I'm going to give a very concrete example. Let's say that someone has asked you to set up some trainings, right? So things like a bunch of settings, a bunch of meetings, right? So it's going to be a series of trainings, and you need to provide a Zoom link for those things. I'm going to tell you right now, just go ahead and create one Zoom link for all of them. As long as they're not happening at the same time, you can use the same Zoom link. So what I'm finding is that office managers are creating a new Zoom link for every single thing. You don't have to do that. And actually, I really like using the web interface for creating meetings. I think it's just cleaner. I will show you, though, how to put it into Calendar as well. But let me just show you this whole thing about creating a meeting. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to schedule a meeting. And this is going to be fake, but I'm going to go ahead and put it in here. It's a really good idea to put a topic. So let's say that you are running, you have to set up these Zoom links for 5 trainings. It's a series, and it's a series on underwater basket weaving. So I'm going to put underwater basket weaving. This is how I'm going to know this is not real. Okay. Underwater basket weaving 101. And I'm going to get real specific. 5-part series. Okay. But I'm going to create one link for all 5 of these because they're not all happening at the same time. They're happening at different times. So I can do that. Not a problem. So underwater basket weaving 101, 5-part series. I can put a description in here if I want. You don't have to. Most importantly is putting something in the topic. That's the title. That's how you're going to know what it's for. Okay. It's also the title that comes up when you record it. Okay. So this is, and it also comes up when the people go to the meeting. So it's really important to actually put a topic in there and not just leave my meeting. Because again, if you have 10 things that are named my meeting, you're not going to remember what is what. So make sure that you are as specific as possible. All right. So guess what? I have 5 meetings that I have to do. I'm not going to put anything in when. I'm not going to put anything in duration. I'm going to make sure that the time zone is Pacific time. Yes, it is. Great. Okay. This is the magic. Recurring meeting. I'm going to click on recurring meeting. Okay. Now, this is the other magic. I am going to click on under recurrence. I'm going to click on no fixed time. Because all I'm trying to do here is get a link that will work. The magic with recurring is that even if it's just one meeting and it's happening a ways from now, that means that that link will not expire. Okay. Recurring meetings have links that last longer than regular meetings. So I think that this is the way to go. I make everything a recurring meeting with no fixed time. So I'm going to do that. And I'm going to show you how you can share this in Calendar as well. But I'm going to click on no fixed time. Look what happens. It takes away the having to put in a date. It takes away having to put in a time. Great. Okay, I have a passcode. Yes, I want the passcode. That's fine. I actually have this set on require authentication to join. If this, remember your audience, if this is only for people within the district, you want to keep it on secure classroom. You want that to be checked. If there are other people coming to this meeting about underwater basket weaving, then you want to turn that off. Okay, but I would say try to keep that on. Even if you're doing this just for people within the district, I would say keep that on. You can go ahead and turn on the waiting room as long as you know how to turn the waiting room off, which, like I said, you can go ahead and do that for this particular meeting. I'm going to leave the waiting room off because I know that this is a secure meeting because I checked this one. Okay, so I want these are all the fancier things, right? The host on, the participant off, that's video when they join and they can decide. Audio, I'm allowing them to use computer audio and telephone. I would always say both on that. Now, here are some meeting options. Allow participants to join anytime. Do you see this little lock? That means that I can't do anything about that. I cannot allow people to join anytime, but you know what? Guess what? People can join anytime. So that has never been a problem for me. Okay. I like that people are muted when they enter. So I do have that checked. I don't know about this. Add watermark that identifies the viewing participant. Fine, whatever. I don't even know what that is. There's breakout room pre-assigned. So if you are creating the list and putting it in for breakouts, you can go ahead and click on that. Now, again, if you're not the person who's running this meeting, then you want to ask the person who will be running the meeting whether or not they want to do breakout room pre-assign. Okay. Request permission to unmute participants. This is actually kind of nice, especially if you're going to have a lot of people. If you turn this on, that means that when they come in, they get a little box before they enter in, and it says, you'll be asked to unmute. You okay with that, basically? And you say, yeah, and you go on in. And that means that you're muted, and it means that I would have to, in order to unmute you, I have to ask you. I have to ask you to unmute yourself. Okay, so it's kind of a way of controlling the conversation. So if you have trainings like I have had recently where I have 180 people, this is actually a really good way to control the chit chat. Okay, most people know by now though to stay muted until they're asked to unmute. This is just kind of nice if you want to do that. I'm actually going to turn that off. Automatically record meeting on the local computer. You may want to do that. If this is something, if it's a training that someone might want to watch the video later, yeah, I would do that. Again, if you are setting up this meeting for someone else, you need to ask them if they want that. So this is really important. But I like to do that because I oftentimes forget to turn on the recording, and this automatically records my meetings. I have no idea what this is. Approve or block entry for users from specific countries or regions. What? No, I just turned that off. All right, alternative hosts. Let me explain what this is. Alternative hosts and co-hosts are the same thing. I know, it's silly. Why don't they call them that? Well, it just means that alternative hosts are people who can open up the meeting without you. So if you're an office manager or someone who works in an office and you are setting up the meeting for someone else to have, this means that you don't have to be there. You don't have to open it up. So what you do is you're going to put their email addresses in here. So here I'm going to put in Ron. Oh, Ron, you don't, what? Sometimes you got to, oh, there he is. You have to put in their email addresses. I'm going to put in Ron. I'm going to put in Vin. Okay. I'm going to, let's see. I'm going to try and pick someone who may not have, So this is the thing that I'm going to, how do I do this? I'll just explain it. So I have Ron and I have Vin in here right now. This means that once I save this, Vin and Ron will both get an email that says, you've been made an alternative host. It's not going to give them a time or anything like that because I haven't set a time on this thing. It's just letting them know that they're alternative hosts for this. This means that they can go ahead and open this meeting at any time. Remember, when you put in a time for a Zoom meeting, that doesn't mean that it can only be opened at that time. Okay, it can be open anytime. So, but this is going to allow them to do that. Now, occasionally, and I've found this out the hard way, I'll put in someone's name and they are not a licensed user. And then that means that I cannot make them an alternative host. This means that they don't have, like I was explaining, a lot of our paraprofessionals, most of our paraprofessionals do not have licenses, okay, because they're using Chromebooks. It's a different situation for them. So let's say that I tried to put someone like that, someone who does not have a license, in here. It's not going to allow me to save them as an alternative host. Now, if I open the meeting, or if one of the other alternative hosts open the meeting, and that person comes in and you want to make them a co-host, they can do that. It's just that the difference between alternative host and co-host is that you can plan out that alternative host piece beforehand. Co-host means you have to be in the meeting to make someone a co-host. So that's the big difference. I hope that answered your question, Lenny. And then enable language interpretation. If you're having a big meeting where you're going to actually have an interpreter there for you and they know how to use that whole system, I would definitely turn that on. Okay, so here we go. I've got this meeting. I don't have a date and a time yet. That's all right, no big deal. I'm going to show you how to do that. So, because all I'm doing right now is I'm just trying to get the link. That's all I care about. I'm going to click on save. Okay, here it is. Here it is. I have the link. Here's the link. How do I know that the password is incorporated? It has the letters PWD, stands for password. So anyone can get into this in our district by clicking on this. I don't know if you've ever tried clicking on a Zoom link where someone hasn't opened it yet, but you'll get in and it'll give you a little message saying this hasn't been opened yet. So they're live. These links are live, but an alternative host or a host has to open it up first for you to actually be able to get in. Okay, so it gives me like a little bit of information. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to just copy the link because that's all people need. Have you noticed that when you send the invitation, it's got a whole lot of information, like way too much information, a bunch of numbers, you don't need that. You just need that, what I just selected. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and put it into a calendar, in a Google Calendar invitation. So I have now copied this. Control C to copy. That's a shortcut. Control C to copy. Now I'm going to go into my calendar. And I'm going to add something here for tonight. Underwater basket weaving. This is where I add it because it's a Zoom link. Now, I know some of you may have this make it a Zoom meeting thing, but that means that you're planning it all through this Zoom meeting. It doesn't work very well for recurring meetings. It doesn't work really great for that whole recurring meeting without a time business, right? So this is what I do. This is my trick. It works great. I click on location, Control V, paste it in. I can go ahead and invite people at this time, right? Add guests, so on and so forth. I'm just going to click on save because there's one more thing I want to show you. So what I've found sometimes is it automatically puts in a Google Meet link, and then all of a sudden my calendar event has a Meet link and a Zoom link, which is very confusing. So I'm just going to go back in and check it. And I'm going to click on edit so I can just really check it. Okay, I'm not doing this. It's got the join Zoom meeting. Okay, blah, blah, blah. Great. Looks great. Save. And there it is. So then I just have to put it in for all the other 4 times that we're doing underwater basket weaving. I think I'm just going to leave that there because it's funny. So that's the magic of recurring meetings. basically. Now, one thing I do want to share with you is that let's say you're making a meeting, you're going to use it over and over again. I have several of those. So if I click on meetings over here on the left, I have all these meetings here that are recurring with no time. Now, I'm going to go into underwater basket weaving because there's something I want to show you, which is really important. If you're not the person who's going to be opening this meeting, then those alternative hosts, they're really important to you because you're going to have them there to open the meeting. So if I edit this at all, let's say I edit the name, it's now a 4-part series. I'm going to click on edit. And I'm going to change it to 4-part series. Fine, that's great. Oops. Whatever. Underwater basket weaving. Didn't like that I just picked the 5. That's not going to let me just pick the 5? Oh, there. Okay. Or I want to add a meeting description, whatever it is. But I want you to notice after I did that, changing something that had nothing to do with anything else, it removed my alternative hosts. And what happens with that too is that your alternative hosts also, I found this out yesterday, also get an email that says you've been removed as an alternative host. So I have to add them back in here. Then they're going to get another email. I know, it's dumb.
Hey, Lori, can I ask a point of clarification? I know I'm
Yeah.
supposed to be helping, but I'm curious, is there a limitation for any of the initial people receiving the link for the meeting of them sharing that with other folks? And if there is, what is it? And do you get any kind of indication that more people have been added to the meeting? Okay. Thank you.
I don't think so. That's a question I've never had. David, if you're in here, I don't know if you can answer that question. Okay. So just so you know, I have to add my alternative host back in. Please keep that in mind. Any change that you make. So just be careful. Just remember that that has to be done. Everything else is the same. Everything else stays the same. It's just the alternative host thing. I don't know if that's a glitch, but other people have had this problem too. So I'm just letting you know because that could be an issue. All right. Questions. I'm going to go back to the top and start going through the questions because it is almost 2:30. Okay. I talked about scheduling Zoom meetings with calendar. So you can use that little, let me show that again. You can use this, make it a Zoom meeting, but it opens up this whole other thing, Zoom scheduler. And then I get really confused because it just sent me back to the same place. So that's why I showed you the way that I do it. And that works really well with the whole recurring meeting thing. Okay, so that's the way that I prefer. Andrea, does that make sense? Are you still here? You are still here.
Yes, it makes sense. Thank you so much.
Okay, good. Okay, and co-hosts versus alternative hosts again. Co-hosts are what you can make anyone a co-host within the meeting. Alternative hosts are the co-hosts that you set aside for beforehand. Okay. And they can open the Zoom meeting for you. If I use the Zoom from okay, I talked about that. How to update your ThinkPad. Okay, I talked about updating. Scheduling privileges. Yeah, Lenny, sorry about that. I'm not there. There's something, I think if you look in the Zoom help, there's something in there about folks being able to, schedule. But again, if you just use alternative hosts, that will work fine. I've had office managers schedule professional learning sessions that they were not a part of at all, but they went ahead and scheduled them, made the people who were actually facilitating the meeting, made them the alternative hosts. So that was not a problem. And honestly, you really only need to set up one alternative host to be sure, because then that alternative host can make the other people co-hosts if need be during the actual meeting. Okay, the whole background thing. So how to have a background on Zoom. So again, you can only have a background on Zoom if you are not working on a Chromebook. If you're working with a regular laptop, you can actually choose a background for Zoom. Question about Gmail accounts and clearing account. Okay, we talked about that, and you're going to email me, Sandy.
I think there was a second part of one question at 135 where they can't see the other participants when sharing their screen.
Oh, with on Zoom. Yeah.
Yes.
So again, that's where having, you can either split your screen so you make your Zoom window half the size that it usually is, and then the other half is whatever you're sharing. You can do that. That's fine. But I suggest to people they try to get a second monitor, because at least that way they can see it full size. I don't know about you, Julie, but my eyes are old and these glasses sometimes are not enough. So that's why I have my laptop and I have it hooked up to a really big monitor. So yeah, there's that. So Julie, I hope that helps. I mean, sharing it's rough. It is rough. Okay. Am I missing anything? Okay. Other questions? You can go ahead and unmute. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. You can go ahead and unmute, and I hope I can answer your question because, boy, let me tell you, Zoom has a lot of stuff and it's confusing.
Hey, Lori, how often would you say an update is available for the app? I mean, is it like once every couple of weeks, or?
I really suggest that one thing is that if you have a day where Zoom is not acting like it usually does, it's probably an update. So that's one way to know. But I would say, like, I have no idea how often they update. David, I don't know if you have any idea. What is it? Oh, it's once a week? Is it really?
Yep.
What day is it? Is it on a specific day?
It's usually toward the end of the week, but those are minor updates. The major updates are maybe like once a month.
Oh,
But
okay.
when in doubt, always keep it updated.
There you go. I would say every Monday morning, that's one of the Monday morning things that you do is you check. Shouldn't take you too long.
And I just noticed that they rolled out a feature for me as the Zoom admin to force updates. I don't know if I want to enable that just yet, but it basically would require you to update your Zoom before you can use it. That's kind of Pandora's box. So I don't know.
I don't know about that, David.
My concern is if it affects people when they really need to be in a meeting.
Yeah. Like people who run late.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So you'll hear that.
And I've been that person. Zoom does have reports. And there are a couple of reports that I found are useful. The other reports that they talk about on their help site, it's just like too much. You actually don't need all that. So the reason why reports are great is because a lot of times we ask people, to prove that they're here by typing their name into the chat, right? And that you're going to use that as proof that they were there. Well, sometimes people, I know they're adults and they're responsible and everything, but sometimes they type their name in and then they leave, right? How do you check whether or not they were there? Well, these reports are great because the report will actually tell you how long they were in your meeting. So not to be obnoxious or anything, but let me just show you this. So along the left-hand side, you see reports. I'm going to click on reports. And what I want to do is I want to look at the usage. Meeting is great, but you're not using registration. And it's also, these kind of reports are also really good if you're using polls. Okay, if someone's using polls, then you can actually get a report about who answered what on the poll. That's great too. But I really like this usage one. So I'm going to click on usage. Now, the default is it's only going to go about 24 hours back. That's it. And this actually didn't happen. I was actually just testing some things for today. So if you don't see what you're looking for down below, you want to change the date. So I'm going to go ahead and just go February 1st through today, and I'm going to click on search. And now what it's going to give me a much longer list because I've had several trainings, right? Or several meetings. So this is a report, right? It's not the report I want, but I'm going to show you the report I want in just a second. If I click on export as a CSV file, I'm going to get an export of this information right here as a CSV file. Okay, so that's easy. The CSV file can be opened up on the web, or it can also be imported to your Google Drive, and you can open it up as a Google Sheet. But what I really want to know, so for instance, here, I'm going to go down here. I noticed that there were 226 people at this meeting. I'm going to go ahead and click on the 226. Now, there is some good information in this. It does tell me how long the meeting was, okay, how long I had it open for. And it tells me how many participants I had. But if I want a little more information, I have to click on the number of people. So here's this. Can I? Okay. And I get this. And this actually tells me that the time someone came and the time someone left and how long they were there. We're not going to worry about the guest thing right now, but basically guest means in this case, it's someone who doesn't have an official account. So students, they're going to be considered guests. Paraprofessionals are considered guests as well because they're not licensed, but I still have their information. So that's all that matters right now. So I can see how long they were there, right? Were they there the whole time about, right? And it tells me that information for everyone. Now, sometimes there are people who come, leave, and come back, right? So I can actually just have this show me unique users if I want it to. So that means it's not going to show me the times that people came back. It's just going to give me their total duration, how long they were there, right? So if you noticed, you know, Magdalena, it says that she was only there for 20 minutes. Actually, it turns out that she was leaving and coming back. She was there a total of 108 minutes. So maybe she was having some problems with her computer or something like that, whatever it was, right? I can export with meeting data. So I'm going to show you what that means. I'm going to click on export. And it downloads an Excel file. So if I open that up, I can just click on it down here. Let me move this over. Oh, you can't see it. That's right. I don't think, you can't see it because it's not in this window. Can you see it? The report? I don't think you can. Okay. It's basically just a spreadsheet with all the same information. If I add the meeting data, it just adds, if I click here, it just adds this stuff at the top. Does it show the time that we're trying to get into a meeting but can't get in? No, it's only going to show when you were actually in. So that's actually that's a good report. It's going to give you a lot of information. Woo, Julie, there's something going on with your, I'm gonna mute you because, yeah, thank you. Woo, yikes. Yeah, it's not going to show that. It's going to show that if you actually came into the meeting and even were there for a minute and you leave, it will show that.
I think she was on a helicopter.
So I'm going to close this. I want to show one more thing, is that anytime you are doing something in Zoom on the web, the web interface, and you see the word document, when you click on that, that shows you the help page. It opens up the help page for that specific thing. In this case, the help page is not very much help because there's just way too much. All right.
Laura,
Yeah.
is it smart enough to count if the people leave the camera on, turn it off, turn off the camera and leave? Okay.
That would be nice, right? Wouldn't that be like life-changing for a lot of teachers, especially? But it doesn't. But thank you. That would have to be, it would have to be really smart, right? That would have to be
have
some
a
artificial intelligence going on that Zoom has turned now, and they can't do that.
You
But
just
that's
you have to have like those hidden questions and answers, like if you do online drivers training. You know, so
Oh,
so if you're not on the whole time, it'll catch you.
right. And if you're a teacher and you're in here, you really should be using Securely. That will help you too. So make sure that you check out Securely if you're a teacher, not a paraprofessional, RSP, or prep teacher. You can't, or admin. You can't actually use Securely. If you're a classroom teacher with a PowerSchool roster, you can use Securely. So definitely check that out. Okay. Reports. That
I'm
was the other
kind
thing.
I'm kind of curious, since we both have at our disposal Meet and Zoom, what's the official district line as far as what should be used when, or is there?
I say the right tool for the job. So it really just depends. I mean, I end up using Google Meet a lot for meetings because I'm not going to be breaking people out into breakout rooms. Zoom is great for breaking people out into breakout rooms, but then, I mean, I also go to the point where it's like, what kind of breakout room? Because sometimes I use Google Meet for breakout rooms. But you know, Zoom is much better for breakout rooms because there's that whole piece of you can just send people off into their breakout rooms and you can bring them all back. Right? You can put a timer on that. There's all kinds of other stuff. How do you run a report to show poll results? So it's basically in the same place under reports. So I'm just going to click on reports again. Under meeting, it's just under meeting. And you want to make sure that poll report is clicked. And again, if you ran a poll and you know you did and you don't see anything down here, it says no data, you probably just have to change the date. I know I did a poll at some point. Yeah. Now the poll reports are a little bit different because you actually have to click on generate. Let me show you what it does. Let's see, I'll do this one. Generate. And it loads, it has to think about it. And it's this one here, but it's not ready, it's gray. So I have to give it a second. But like this one was ready. This one's ready. If I click on this download, it downloads it as a CSV file. Yeah, so that's how you do it.
Thank
And
you.
and also, just before anybody asks, IT also does not have any reporting data past 30 days. That's a Zoom limitation.
Oh, okay, that's good to know. Julie was very funny, and she said that she was sorry for traveling during the travel shutdown on her helicopter. Sorry, that's hilarious. Good for you, Julie. Other questions?
Okay, if I want to share a video on Zoom, I've tried it a couple times, and the volume, they hear my computer volume.
Do you have
the video volume?
You have to make sure that, you know, in the window that comes up about what you're going to share, in the bottom left-hand corner of that window, there's a little checkbox that says share audio. You have to make sure that that's checked. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I think.
Okay. There's a little box. There's a little checkbox. I can't really show that because I'd have to open a Zoom and that might get kind of crazy.
Okay. No.
Yeah, but just look for the share audio. You know, because when you click on
Zoom in a Meet,
you can't what? I can, but it's gonna like take a little while because I have to like open it and it's gonna be bonkers.
Yeah.
It might just be the sharing. Yeah.
Never mind.
Okay. No, but I would say just check it out, right? When you click on share for Zoom, what happens is that box comes up and it asks you like, what are you sharing?
Yeah.
In the bottom left-hand corner of that box, there's a checkbox that says, do you want to share the audio or share audio? You just have to make sure that's checked. And then that way the volume should come straight from whatever's showing on the screen.